You look at the rent for a flat in your city, then you look at your salary, then you close the browser. This is happening everywhere. London, New York, Sydney, Amsterdam, Toronto, Berlin. Cities that are not even particularly glamorous are charging rents that a generation ago would have seemed extraordinary. The explanation is not complicated, but it is uncomfortable because it involves a conflict between people who already own homes and people who need them. Here is the brutal arithmetic. More people want to live in cities than there are homes in those cities. That is the whole story. Everything else is a variation on that sentence. When demand exceeds supply, prices go up. That is not a quirk of capitalism. It is the basic logic of scarcity, the same logic that drives up concert ticket prices and the cost of a rare pair of trainers. But housing has a feature those things don't. It is physically anchored to geography. You cannot ship more city center from a warehouse in a cheaper region. You can build more homes. But building requires space, and space is either already occupied or blocked by the people who live nearby. Here is the mechanism behind that blockage. People move to cities because cities have jobs. Employers cluster in cities because workers cluster there. This process, called agglomeration, means that proximity generates economic value. Finance firms sit near other finance firms. Tech companies cluster near universities. Creative industries need a critical mass of creative workers. As economies shift toward services and knowledge work, a smaller number of cities accumulate a disproportionate share of the best jobs. London, New York, Tokyo, San Francisco. The pressure on housing in those cities becomes immense. Hundreds of thousands of people need to live within commuting distance of a relatively small geographic core. Supply does not keep up, not because it is physically impossible to build more homes. In most cities, it is entirely possible. The reason supply falls short is planning permission. In most developed countries, local zoning laws make it extremely difficult to build new housing in the places where it is most needed. American cities historically zone the vast majority of their land for single-family detached houses only. Apartment buildings are illegal on most residential land in Los Angeles, Boston, and dozens of other major cities. British planning law requires years of approvals, impact assessments, and public consultation before a new development can proceed. Residents can object, and here is the uncomfortable part. The people most likely to object are the people who already own homes. Not because homeowners are heartless, because they have rationally calculated, correctly, that more housing. Supply in their neighborhood means their own property value may fall, their street may change, their local services may be stretched, and the character of their area may shift. They vote in local elections. New arrivals don't yet. The people who most need new housing are rarely the people with the most political power to demand it. This phenomenon is called NIMBYism, not in my backyard. It is not unique to housing, but it has an unusually powerful effect on housing markets because the people who benefit from high house prices, existing owners, are precisely the people with the political leverage to keep new supply out. Researchers at Harvard's Joint Center for Housing Studies have tracked this dynamic across American cities for decades. The cities with the strictest zoning restrictions consistently have the highest rents and the worst housing affordability. This is not a coincidence. Minneapolis changed its zoning laws in 2021, allowing apartments to be built across the city in areas previously restricted to single-family homes. Since then, Minneapolis rents have risen more slowly than the national average. It is early data, and cities differ enormously. But the direction is consistent with what economic theory predicts. Japan offers the most striking comparison. Tokyo has national zoning laws that override local objections. The Japanese government sets permissive development standards centrally, and local authorities cannot easily block construction. Tokyo, one of the largest cities on Earth, builds an enormous amount of new housing every year. And Tokyo rents, in real terms, are lower than many smaller Western cities. The solution is known. Build more homes in the places where people want to live without requiring years of approvals and endless objections from existing residents. It is not a secret. It is not complicated. It is simply politically difficult. Because the people who have homes don't need more of them, and the people who need them don't yet have the power to demand them. Now you know.